Call the Halsey City Council meeting of December 13th, 2022. To order at 7 p.m. Hillary, please call the roll.
Mayor Lockenbrook,
Here.
Councilor Gilson,
Here.
Councilor Isom. Here. Council President Lorenzen,
Here.
Councilor McMillan,
Here.
Councilor Romer,
Here.
Councilor Strauss. Here.
Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to thank all that decided to attend this evening, either you're here or virtually. I guess they're physically present, need to fill out the meeting sign-in sheet near the door. And since we're running a hybrid meeting tonight, we can allow those attending remotely to do so. Cut down any background noise and feedback. Remote attendees should mute themselves while not speaking. Audience members may unmute themselves to speak during citizen comments. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The councilor may request to remove an item from the consent agenda that they wish to have discussed and acted on outside the consent agenda. There's no request made. Council may approve all items on the consent agenda with a single motion. Energy motion.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey approve the business items in a consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, the financial report. Any questions, comments, discussion, concerns? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey approve the November 2022 financial reports and the journal entries as submitted.
Second. All in favor?
Was that so far?
Opposed? Motion carries. And for agenda adjustments, we have Central Lynn Foundation request.
She said she doesn't need to be adjusted.
Don't need to be adjusted. Well, then you're well adjusted. Don't see the sheriff's department here. We go, citizen comments. Next item agenda, of course, citizen comments. This item time is for interested citizens and anyone in the audience to address the council on any item of concern. Please limit your comments to about 3 minutes. Please start by introducing yourself and stating your address. Anyone? Going once, going twice, moving on. Next is reports to council. Start with the employee report. City administrator. Hillary.
So our Tree Cities application has been submitted. The council meeting schedule for 2023 is attached. And so I need to find out if there are any meetings you want to move around. I want to call your attention to the fact that the January meeting is on the second Monday, not the second Tuesday, because it says that in our charter after a general election. So, so that there's that one, but then the February, it falls on Valentine's Day. And if we're going to have a quorum problem, then we want to choose a different date. If there is no quorum pattern, then we can stick with Valentine's.
Anyone?
That's what. Double whammy.
We'll sing to you.
Who's we?
Hopefully everybody else does.
We want to change it.
I don't have an issue with.
I won't be here August, but
All right. Just a heads up that paid family leave tax starts in January and employees are eligible to take paid family leave starting in September. The Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund applications were submitted. These are the DEQ loans for the I&I repairs and for the wastewater facilities plan. Wetlands advocacy. I had the opportunity to sit down with Representative Rayfield. He's actually in the Corvallis area, but he's also the new Speaker of the House. And a member of the Regional Solutions team suggested pigeonholing him and talking to him about Halsey's wetlands issues. He gave me some other people to talk to. There's going to be an affordable housing package that they expect to hit the floor this year, and he suggested that anything related to wetlands and affordable housing, it would be easier to get it through as part of a larger package than Halsey going by ourselves. And so I made those phone calls. We are in a position where we've lost both our senator who retired and our rep who decided he didn't want to do it anyway, but we'd also been redistricted. So we have a new senator and a new rep this year. And those relationships can be pretty key, because if they are in tune with what Halsey needs and wants, then they can bring or support legislature that will positively impact Halsey. So the mayor had sat down with me in the past with both over coffee to have conversations and talk about things that were key to Halsey. But that really doesn't have to be the mayor. If there are any of you that have time and are willing to meet up for coffee and want to talk some about, you know, the concerns rural communities have that are not always being heard in Salem, I would love to have company, and it certainly has more impact when there's an elected official at the table. Usually it is weekdays, not necessarily during the weekday. Sometimes it is, but sometimes they'll meet us after, you know, in the evening. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. Connected to that also, the year of the long session, League of Oregon Cities hosts City Day in Salem. It's on January 25th this year. It's basically a full day. I think it's a Wednesday. And it's in the morning. We listen to politicians. We listen to the governor and the Speaker of the House and the leader of the minority party and the president of the Senate. I'm mixing that up, and the leader of the Senate minority. But then in the afternoon, we have appointments where we can go talk to our senator, our rep, potentially somebody like Representative Rayfield or Representative Dexter that's working on something that we're really interested in. So I have signed up to go to that. But again, if any of you are interested and want to go to Salem and, you know, listen and harass people, please let me know. All right. The park committee has given general feedback. We put them in recess for the holidays so Julia could start doing research on the nuts and bolts and cost, maintenance, insurance, feasibility, and all that stuff. So she's working on that. And we actually have scale maps that we got from the county where we can, you know, cut out pieces to scale and kind of make sure everything fits or see how they fit. The elected essentials training, I think there are still some sessions available. If you've never gone to one, or if you're a newer counselor, they have some good information in there. And you don't have to wait until you've taken oath if you want to attend a session. I can help you get signed up for it. The Lynn County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan, I ended up sending her an itemized email with like literally calling out numbers and items in the contract, and it was about this long. And she replied, she said, well, you don't have to sign the IGA. And I said, hold up, we don't have to sign the IGA. And she said, no. I said, and we're still eligible for FEMA funding. And she said, yeah.
Really?
And I said, just to confirm, we don't have to sign the IGA. And she said, you don't have to sign the IGA. She said, we have a grant writer that really wanted everybody to sign the IGA. So, all right. So,
Can they send something in writing?
well, I have it in writing. I'm printing out those emails and writing them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, so I think we're okay. I don't think we're gonna have to sign it. We probably still want to participate.
Right.
And I need some clarity. We may have to adopt the plan to be eligible for FEMA funding, but we did not have to sign the IGA about the plan to be eligible for FEMA funding. I will get some clarity on that, but at least at this point, we don't have to sign that IGA. The city was not awarded a small cities allotment grant for this cycle. It's a shame because Larissa worked very hard on it. It's not too surprising because while they raised the amounts of grant, they don't actually have any more money, which made it more competitive because everybody wanted them, and it meant they had fewer of them to get out. Plus, we've had several in a row, so they may have, you know, chosen communities that had not had them previously. We'll try again. Every August we can try. So the new website is live. To a point, it is rough. they were supposed to migrate stuff. They did some, but there was lots of blocks of Latin in there. There are the broken links, there are stock pictures that, so Marissa's been working on it. She's taught Maddie, she's gonna teach me, so we're all gonna be able to, we're working through it, we're cleaning it up, so we're aware that there are issues there. Nonetheless, the website is now at halseyor.gov. And once it's groomed and fixed, it's actually gonna be pretty awesome. And then we've had around surrounding that letter that we sent to the LOC from several small communities. We've had some conversations about regional lobbying efforts. We talked about, you know, a bunch of small cities going in and hiring our own lobbyists to go to Salem. Got some advice back from a couple of lobbyists that really the legislators have 1,000 lobbyists in their face already, and one more lobbyist in their face is not going to do nearly as much as having our elected officials have relationships with our state rep and our senator and get their ear and get them on our side and get them invested. The League of Oregon Cities is teaching a lobbying 101 workshop. It was tonight. I did tell them that was a really bad time, but it's recorded. So if council wanted, we could do a work session and watch it all together, or I can send it to you and you can watch it on your own time if you're interested in it. And then we've talked also about just a couple times a year having a regional meeting where we get all the cities together. We talk about what our priorities are as a region so that we can all hit at the same time, hit hard with the same voice. And we've also talked about hosting an event that has like reps for the rural communities, because we aren't all in the same district. And so get the reps and get the senators from this area, this rural Lynn Benton area, and then get a lot of our elected officials in the room and have kind of a coffee and cookies event and have an opportunity for them to speak to all of you and for you to speak to all of them. And so if that is of interest to council, I'll continue to pursue it. It is probably critical in terms of having developable land.
I think it's something we should definitely look at pursuing. I don't want to lose any traction.
Yeah. There isn't balance in Salem, and
Right.
all voices are getting lost.
Exactly.
That's as tactical as I can be about that.
Yes.
So would there be interest in a council work session to do that training altogether? Would any of you be interested in attending a rural meeting or a regional meeting at some point? Maybe in
Definitely.
the evening?
Definitely.
All right, then I'll just keep you posted as those things develop. And that's it for mine.
So next is the Public Works Department. Andy. Are you there? Can you hear us, Andy?
All right, can you hear me now?
Can hear you now.
Oh, perfect. My report for November on the water section is we had a water service leak on the 300 block on 5th Street. With the help of Lyrica, our Vector truck is down and had emergency locates called in and they said, hey, we got the vac truck. And they helped us immensely because we started working on that late in the afternoon. And if it wasn't for them, we would have been working in the dark. Other work, did our annual water use report. And the sewer side, there was replaced the photo eye at the lagoon gate. It failed and was able to replace that. And our annual effluent meter calibration was completed. Come to find out, we can do our own calibrations as long as it's done through the manufacturer recommendations on how to do that. So we're going to be able to do it ourselves and document that information, and DEQ is going to approve of that. We started discharging at December 1st. And of course, before we start discharging, we go through all of our equipment, rebuilding and whatnot, and get everything dialed in before we start discharging. And the streets, we graded all the graveled roads in town, which is only 3. but that work has been completed. And we hung the Christmas lights on Highway 99, and we completed all the other library and city hall, putting the lights up there too. We did 2 drainage improvements in town. We did on the 400 block of 4th Street, we did 40 foot of drain pipe there, and on the 5th Street on the 600 block, we did 20 foot sections. And this is all just things that we can see that's not flowing correctly. The pipes are plugged. So as we check those things off our list, then we're improving the drainage system in town. At City Hall, we had a contractor come and remove moss from the roof. While they were on the roof, they found some missing shingles and some caulking around the vent, the boots around the vents. We had them complete that work. Down the road, I think that we need to address some things as far as some fascia boards got some rot going on. You see on the south side of the building, there's some trim work that's around the windows that are bubbling up, and you can see that there's rot. So we'll address those and get those addressed later down the road. But what was I going to say? I think that we have some contractors that we're reaching out to get bids for a roof replacement. And so once I get those in and communicate with Hillary, then we can move forward on what we need to do as far as replacing the roof on City Hall. And the Vector truck is back in the shop with the transmission issue. Good thing is that it's under warranty. And as of now, they took the transmission out, sent it back to the manufacturer, and they have, I just talked to them 2 days ago, and they said that they are gearing up to ship us a new one. So once that gets in, we're looking at being able to have the Vector truck. They said either end of next week, possibly after that, the week after. So we'll see about that. Keep our fingers crossed. That's all I have. Any questions?
Anybody? Thank you very much, Andy.
All right, thank you.
And next is the library report with Sarah.
Okay, so at the library last month, our daily rental count was about 5 people a day. I think our numbers have dropped just a little bit as we've gone into winter. We had our bookmobile sale, not a lot of people, less than 20, still made $50, and a new volunteer car helped out. And like Andy said, he and Billy hung the Christmas lights at the library. And my son is coming tomorrow to help hang Christmas lights inside the library. He's very excited about that. And Daphne and I walked in a parade to represent the library. A new heater was just installed yesterday, I believe. So I'm very grateful. Thank you. And upcoming events, we have our Caroling Insider event this Saturday at 5. We'd love to see you there. And then I'm doing a sleepover at the library on Friday. Oh my gosh, I'm just noticing it. Big Friday the 13th. On Friday, January 13th. So that should be fun. And that's what's happening at the library. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Questions? Much. So we can either do council reports or we can have the sheriff's department. Like.
Yeah, real quick. Don't have a lot to talk about, which is good. I think this second straight month has been very quiet. And the law enforcement quiet is good. But also quiet doesn't last forever. So we talk about complacency a lot in law enforcement, but that goes to residents too. So just because you're not seeing vehicles being broken into now or stuff being stolen from outside. Please don't think that that's going to continue. Please take precautions, locking doors, leaving valuables out of the way. Out of sight, but for November and going into the holiday season with no property crimes, our one arrest was related to a warrant. 8 traffic stops, 2 citations. There's really not a lot to talk about. I guess the one consistent in the last few months is addressing some parking with Diamond K. Talking with Hillary about that, we probably could issue some more citations. It depends on kind of if we're seeing it when it's happening and what other deputies have going on at the time. The one notes you see in there with Oregon State Police where we assisted them, that was actually in regards to Diamond K and then running forklifts back and forth in the dark. So it's even generating some calls for state police because technically that they're going to consider that Highway 228 and Highway 99. So couple agencies have been on him. So we're gonna keep trying to work that as well and try to not, how do I word this, not calling him a bully, but not taking advantage of the spaces and public property that we have here. So any questions about that or anything else in the report or anything else going on? Sheriff's office, life in general?
I just have, life in general, well, no, I just have to say that I've been thinking about you guys a lot this last week after the whole train incident. I can only imagine. So, yeah, kudos to what you guys have to deal with.
Yeah, we have a lot of resources that can help us.
Good.
I was one of the first ones there.
I thought I saw you. Yeah.
I try to get Halsey out of there, and we worked pretty good. We had Junction City and Harrisburg Fire also move up, so Junction City was gonna cover Harrisburg was gonna cover Halsey to give those guys time. We have a big chaplain agency that we work with, so they were on scene with us as we're processing, and then being with all the fire departments involved. Yeah, when we started putting some pieces together, that was a tough one.
Yeah, I saw you out there when I drove past and I was like, yeah.
It's tough in general, and then you combine it was just terrible weather, it was windy, dumping rain.
Right.
Yeah, nothing went right that day.
No.
So I appreciate that though.
Yeah.
What else? Thank you very much. Be safe.
Thank you.
I'll circle back to council reports. Start with Ken and sharing hands.
Well, we just passed Thanksgiving. And Friday before Thanksgiving, sharing hands had like 2 turkeys. And I think it was 68 requests from families for dinners. But Tuesday before Thanksgiving, we received 70 or 72 turkeys and everything to go with it.
Wow.
So awesome.
From one donor or just,
So, well, most of it came through Oregon Food Alliance.
okay,
We had people stepping up and
that's awesome.
donating too.
Good.
So around 70 families received turkeys and everything that goes with it. So, and then this Saturday, we will be doing where we hand out the Christmas gifts for the kids. You know, have the Georgia Pacific participates quite a bit. I just picked up 50 presents for kids from them. So there are people there just fantastic and supporting us. And then we have one of the clubs And at least one of the churches also participating, so. Yeah, a lot of kids are gonna get to have Christmas this year.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. Questions? The next will be the Central Lynn School District with Michelle.
I was at the school board meeting last night and the ASB president, or vice president, they came in and just talked about some things that they've been doing. It's Spirit Week this week. I actually went to the assembly on Monday. It's been a long time since I've been to assembly at a high school. It was kind of fun, actually. It was just fun to see all the kids interacting and having a good time, being goofy. Also, they have the leadership class is collecting gifts for 4 different families at the school. Unfortunately, as of yesterday, they had not had anything donated. So hopefully that will pick up. Is that they've got a list of different items. They've got 4 different families, there's a single dad, a single mom, 4 different situations, and they've got gift ideas. So the board is they're working on putting together a policy committee, because there's been a lot of complaints about transparency the last year or so. So they're working on putting together a policy committee, and that's going to help with the transparency, which is good. So they also have a steering committee that is made up of community members, students, and then Candace, the superintendent, which was really interesting because they had one of the girls there. She got up and spoke a little bit. They're working on figuring out a new motto, not mottos, not what I'm trying to say. Mission, thank you. Mission statement for the school district. And it's been fun. It was fun because they taking all kinds of input and they're working it out and figuring out the goals for the district. And it's neat to see that they're involving the kids in that too. So, yeah, the PTC has purchased some new playground equipment that will be going in over the next few months. So they're working on getting that all together. And that's about it.
Thank you very much.
Can I add something to my report?
You bet.
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that donated food. We had approximately 100 pounds of food donated through Third Thursday. We did last month.
Oh.
And just from people here in Halsey. And also Georgia Pacific donated 4 pallets of paper products.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Which, you got to think about it. Everybody needs toilet paper.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a very generous donation.
That is 4 pallets. Huh?
Thank you. Next is the OCWCOG board with Jeremy.
Yeah, so I attended my first Oregon Cascades West Council of Governments meeting. It's a mouthful. I wasn't really sure what that was all about. But essentially it's Benton, Lincoln, and Lynn counties, government officials, city council folks, all getting together and trying to efficiently share information and come up with streamlining of programs to make everything better for their constituents. And so one of the projects they've been working on was a bias hotline, and they have a hotline number that you can call in, and I'll see if I can get that into the Halsey happenings. And it's just calling to report any kind of bias, like it's not for like criminal charges or anything like that. But if you feel like you've been a victim of a bias incident, you can call in, whether that's ageism, gender, racism, religion, anything like that. And they have people that you can talk to and report those incidents. The Council of Governments is kind of combining, collaborating, dovetailing with the area agency on aging. It's the Senior Disability and Community Services. And so in like Toledo and in Albany, they have two separate entities where they guide people, you know, kind of back and forth. And it sounded like folks have to go to one place and then the other, and they get bounced around a lot. And so what they're proposing to do is combine those two entities under the same roof, bring them together so that it's more streamlined for folks, so that they don't get lost in the shuffle and they don't have to, you know, go back and forth 10 times. They can do everything all under one roof. That includes the adult protective services, dementia care, aging and disability resource connections. So those are all programs and guidance information that they provide to people there for all kinds of different social services and things like that. The community service programs, they provide information, folks on that too. That's like Meals on Wheels, the Stand By Me Oregon, where people can go in and get financial coaching if they're having troubles, you know, with budgeting their household, and the senior health insurance benefits. And so anything that any government programs, they're trying to make them, you know, more available to their constituents to where they can go to one place and have this whole list of, you know, who to contact in these situations, and then also have people there to help guide them through that. So that was the long and short of it. It was pretty impressive. It's a lot of people doing the same things that I think we want to do here, making things better for everybody in their communities. And they're just trying to do it on kind of a larger scale. So that's it.
Awesome. And next is, now we're gonna get to the Central Lynn Foundation.
Yes, you all got a letter in your packets, but for people here in the audience who didn't, I'll just say that the Central Lynn Community Foundation is asking for a donation. And we give grants to various nonprofits in the Central Lynn School District area. And last year we gave a grant to the elementary school parent teacher club for the playground equipment. The Central Lynn Rec Center for first aid kit, the Brownsville Garden Club for the flower barrels in downtown Brownsville, City of Halsey Library for the heat pump, Sharing Hands for some repairs and paint, and for the Lynn County Museum Friends for Stand By Me Day. And we gave out a total of $7,500 in grants. And our funding comes from donations. So here I am. Basically to take questions if you have any.
Any questions, comments? Do you have anything you want to add, Hillary, or?
The resolution council adopted a few years ago that allows this, the maximum amount that can be donated is $500. There is that much in this line item in the fund for that. The letter said they would take any amount.
Yeah.
They have, when we apply for grants, it's really nice to have matching funds, have money in, and we put money in from the city. But a lot of times foundations are impressed if other foundations have already given. So we try not to apply too often, but they did help us out with the heat pump. And what that does is when we then turn around and apply for the SLEDS grant, we can say, and we got this grant and the city's putting in money and it's all ready to go. And it does help us out when we can do that too.
I see no problem with.
You can also, if there's any organizations here in town who are looking for funding or something, you can reach them instead of you guys giving it out.
I see no problem with the $500 request. Anybody having concerns or?
No.
Okay, well, I would take a motion.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey approve the contribution in the amount of $500 to the Central End Community Foundation.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
you're welcome.
You do good work. The next is the TMDL update. That is such a fun thing.
Fun.
So this once upon a time was a voluntary program and it's no longer voluntary. And if you push back, they send you lots of threatening ORS codes about how they can fine the city if you don't do what they tell you to. So DEQ is accountable to the EPA. They submitted their regional report for TMDL for their plan and were told that it was not strong enough in mercury. So they had to go back in and open up mercury and do a bunch of additional requirements. And then we were all required to update our plans to reflect those additional requirements. And it's got nitty gritty to the point. There are places where they were making a few specific language. And yes, I did talk to the city attorney and groused about it. He said, well, you don't have to do it, but then you have to accept that they're gonna, they may choose to bring disciplinary action against the city. And so I did it. So this is the updated report. It has some additional requirements. There's ordinance language that they had asked for. One, with illicit dumping and illegal dumping and illicit discharge, they'd asked us to have ordinance language that has increasing consequences if it happens multiple times. And I just got an email from her the other day when she and I were negotiating this, because believe me, we went back and forth like about 5 or 6 drafts. I said, well, our ordinance says that each day is a separate occurrence. And if somebody is found guilty, then they can fine for each occurrence. So if they do it over and over again, then it is an increasing amount. And at the time she said, no, that doesn't work. And I just got an email from her that said, actually, yeah, that does work. You don't have to change your ordinance language for that. This hasn't been updated because I just got that from her yesterday. One of the tricky changes is that we've always been required to do educational stuff around pollution. And that's why you see annual articles in the newsletter about the bacteria and dog waste and, what illegal dumping can do to the streams and fishers and that sort of thing. Some of those were required to put in, but we're now required to do qualitative analysis of how our educational things are succeeding. So we can do a survey at the beginning of the year and then have our things and then do a survey at the end of the year and find out if we've, educated anybody on anything. Considering how hard it was to get people to respond to a park survey, which is fun.
Yeah.
I'm not optimistic. She said, well, you can do an educational event and you can, give away a fishing reel to get people to come, and then you can teach them stuff. And at the end of the event, you can, give them a pop quiz and they can show you that they learned stuff. So they suggested we go teach a class at the elementary school. And I said, this is not my area of expertise. I can't go teach a class. It's been a long, long conversation. I apologize. I'm giving you too much detail. In any case, those are the significant changes to the report.
Yeah.
There are other minor ones, they're wording things. And if you have questions about any of this, please let me know, because I've been in it pretty deep.
We have lots of information.
Way too much.
What is TMDL?
Total maximum daily load. It has to do with pollution.
On the plus side, there's a lot of improvement going on in the city, whether the state's doing it or not is whatever, but
Yeah.
Right.
all that speckled runoff drainage stuff they're doing.
Yes.
That's all
It all helps.
pertaining to that.
Yes.
So that's cool.
Any other questions, comments?
Sorry, you have to deal with this.
It's part of it. It's just part of the game.
Well, I entertain a motion.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey approve the updated TMDL matrix as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is animal ordinance. Marie, if you'd be so kind.
Yeah, so we have a request to look at the animal ordinance, specifically as regard to the 4-H animals on lots smaller than the current minimum size for livestock. So I need direction from council. If you as a whole want to work on this, you have some options. One would be to revise the entire animal ordinance and just change the minimum lot size for animals or for specific animals. You can do that however you want. You can have conditions. If you do want to do that, I'm going to recommend a work session because there are so many variables. We last updated this ordinance in 2018 and we did work sessions then for those, some of you were here then. And there's just so many different variables that I want to bring you lots of information and wording to play with and materials to play with. Another option would be to amend the existing language to create an opportunity for family participation in 4-H program to apply to do so, subject to verification. So basically an amendment saying, you know, in addition to this animal ordinance, if a family is participating in the 4-H program, they're registered to participate in the 4-H program, they can enter a voluntary agreement with the city that will let them do that. They'll sign an agreement similar to what we would do with a Fair Housing Act accommodation, and they'll promise to keep the manure cleaned up, and they'll promise to obey the other city ordinances, and they'll promise to, you know, do certain things. And I think if they were a renter, we would probably ask them to make sure the property owner is given permission as well. And you know, we could have certain requirements. I have been in touch with the 4-H program through the USDA, and she said, yes, absolutely, they can verify, you know, participants. So that mechanism is available to us. So that would be a light version where we don't crack open the whole ordinance, but we do an amendment that would address a specific issue and create an opportunity. And then the final option is to decline to amend the ordinance. And I just need direction from council on how you as a whole would like to proceed. I think with the amendment, if there is consensus, you might not have to do a work session and I can bring you some language and you can play with it. If you want to open up the whole ordinance just based on our prior experience with that, it's so complex and there's so many different opinions about it. I think you would need a work session for that.
I think if we open up the entire ordinance, we run the risk of, well, it's already a razor's edge of enforceability. So I worry about creating more of a headache.
I agree. I feel like to amend it would be better just in the fact of accountability.
Right.
And that's my one request for council. I mean, people are passionate about this on both sides and they have good reasons to be passionate about it on both sides. And the one thing that's important to me is whatever you end up with, it has to be clean and not ambiguous, because I will be asked to enforce it. And if we have an ordinance on the books, it has to be enforceable because people expect us to do so. And if we don't, they'll get mad. And so if it's fuzzy, like you can do it unless it becomes a problem, that leaves it up to me to determine when it's a problem. And that leaves us in a fairly indefensible position. So it just, whatever you come up with just has to be very clean and easy to, just very simple and black and white if possible.
I'm sure Ross would do it as well, so.
Oh, absolutely.
I think the homeless situation in the country has kind of brought it to people's minds why these things exist, these laws. This to me is a similar issue. What people tend to forget, because we've done so well for generations now, we've forgotten that the reason those laws exist is for the public's health.
Right.
It's a sanitation issue and other things. And like you said, it can be a problem with enforcement, or you can have problems with the neighbors not agreeing to, you know, somebody next door having a herd of camels in the backyard, or, you know, it can be a real Pandora's box. I would just soon leave it as it is myself.
I feel the same way. I know that it was, I mean, living in Halsey for almost 30 years. I know there was a time when there wasn't the ordinance and it was ridiculous. And I know when it was revised, and I know, you know, what led up to it being revised too. I know our neighbor on the other side of us has chickens and we have to listen to them every morning, and yeah. And I just think that you give somebody an inch, they're going to take a mile, you know, just leave it the way it is. If somebody has a 4-H animal, then maybe they should have land somewhere else. I know there's lots of people who rent their land or their space to them. Or even the school they keep animals down here too, out at the land lab. So,
Yeah, I personally would rather leave the ordinance the way it is. I was curious. After we got the packets, what other cities had, and Halsey's is a little more lenient than some of the localer, like Harrisburg and some of the other cities. I'm not really sure how much farther we could go without creating issues. And since it's a newer ordinance, it's pretty on par with everything else. And it just seems at this point, I would just prefer to leave it alone.
Feel like if we made a change, there's certain things we have to address as far as noise and runoff from the area that the animals would be in. Because we've just talking about how we have to deal with our runoff and account for that. And you know, they talk about the problems with, you know, dog waste or whatever. Well, other animal waste is just, it's an issue too. So it would have to be pretty strict about keeping it cleaned up and also not increasing a noise issue. I know we don't allow roosters because of noise. We have allowed chickens. I don't know where the fine line is.
My other fear was just being able to actually have it enforced, because I know when we bought our house, the people who lived there had sheep in the backyard that I know had complaints on them multiple times from the neighbors. Because the neighbor who we lived next to, who doesn't live there anymore, was calling like once a month on the sheep. And it was never, they had them for 2 years, basically, and it was never an enforceable issue. And I know, I mean, even how many times we put in the newsletter to keep, you know, your chickens on your property, and you still drive through Halsey and
Yeah,
the street.
we
every
had
day,
chicken
so.
a block way over on our property.
We don't have a huge police presence, so if it is something that animal control has to come in,
not only that, but our city staff.
yeah.
And I think that, I mean, obviously, 2018, obviously, it's only 4 years old since you just revisited it and changed it and stuff, so why do it again?
Yeah, TJ?
Is it permissible, Steve? Don't look at me.
I just wanted to let you know that one of the things that fowl draw our vermin. We have a neighbor who had quite a flock of ducks and chickens. And she had constant problems with coons and rats.
Mhm.
And since we often have warehouses that have rats. You know, I love the chicken noises. They don't bother me. I love the duck noises, but I don't like the vermin.
It's a good point.
Thank you. So consensus would be
Leave it alone.
leave it alone. Okay,
Do we have to vote? No, it's not.
No.
We just need to let you know.
consensus. Find and then the ordinance. And that comes up to ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance 2022-442. An ordinance of the city of Halsey amending the Halsey Municipal Code and adding chapter 7.30 regulating mobile food units. Mouthful. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Nope, looked pretty thorough.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey adopt ordinance 2022-442, an ordinance of the city of Halsey amending the Halsey Municipal Code and adding chapter 7.30 regulating mobile food units. Ooh. That is a lot. Aye.
Motion carries. Next is ordinance 2022-441. An ordinance of the city of Halsey amending the Halsey Municipal Code and adding chapter 4.35 cost recovery. This is the first reading. Comments, questions? Do you have anything you want to add to it?
Just what I have in the summary, that this is a method of spreading cost, and in particular, it would apply in a situation where somebody's developing a property and they're extending services to that property, they're going past several undeveloped lots. And so it would allow them to apply to add a portion of their cost to those lots if they are developed in the next 10 years. And that would go through public hearing and review process. The city engineer would determine, well, the city engineer would recommend, council would determine if you want to do it. And the potential benefit to those undeveloped lots is that then it would only be appropriate if they would have had to pay to extend service to their lots as well. And that's what the engineer helps us determine, but if they would have, then the cost of extending that service is frozen the day that it's done, where 5 years from that time, between inflation and cost of materials, the cost of extending that service might be quite a bit higher. And in 10 years, it goes away. It's a time limited thing. It would be extremely difficult to administer elsewise. So I guess just if there are any questions about it.
Anyone? Okay. So this is the first read, so nothing.
Oh, and I'm sorry about that. The ordinance that you have sitting on the table. The attorney hadn't returned his review when I put your packet together. So the one on the table is the updated version. Mostly he made me change some letters to numbers, but there were a couple places he had me to phrase out. So if you'd like to see.
Resolution 022-714. Resolution of the city of Halsey certifying the election results for November 8th, 2022 general election. There's self-explanatory. Any questions, concerns, comments?
I want to know how many votes Mickey Mouse got.
They didn't itemize that for me this time because we didn't have.
It's one every year, every election.
Once somebody even wrote me in. I'll find out from the cert, but I don't know.
I'm sure it wasn't Jason.
No, he wouldn't do that.
Sure.
So I would entertain a motion.
I move that the governing body of the city of Halsey adopt resolution 2022-714, resolution of the city of Halsey certifying the election results for the November 8th, 2022 general election.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Before we adjourn, I want to say heartfelt thank you very much to Councilor Gilson. It's been an absolute pleasure staying at the table with you. All your service you've given the city of Halsey. Very much appreciated.
Oh, you're welcome. Been a privilege, it really has. I don't know how many of you have seen the movie Waking Ned Divine, but it kind of reminds me, it's kind of nice to sit in at your own funeral.
Wow, that escalated quickly.
Okay, well, right along.
I want to thank TJ for allowing him to sit on council and tolerating it.
You hear that?
I've been married a couple times. I know better.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll adjourn at 7:56.
And there's cake.
6?
And there's
How about 2?
Two. It's the law.
2 or 3, maybe?
Sure.
Not 6.
6.